He's a big Giants fan. He's a Dubs fan. He's a Niners fan. He commutes really between, or goes back and forth between San Francisco and Los Angeles as a writer. Brilliant, brilliant guy, and takes in every kind of medium, music, obscure subtitle films, from some filmmaker who's living essentially in obscurity. Michael sees the movie. And also the big blockbuster movies. Michael's a comic book collector, so he knows the DC universe and the Marvel universe. Pretty much an incredible guy, I think, in terms of just his literacy when it comes to media. I like to give him the longest intros that one can possibly imagine. So he comes and goes, yes, on a rainbow. How about it for the great Michael Snyder, everyone? Hi, Michael.
Oh, thank you for that loving intro, that 8 minutes into my segment, Mark. Jeez Louise, we're not running too late, are we? By the way, if that was a news capsule, it was a horse capsule, the kind you can barely swallow with a gallon of water.
Oh, no, my God, he does.
Kim does her work beautifully. I always tune in to hear her news segments, and of course, she always manages to nail it. Mark, I am up in San Francisco, and it is Fleet Week here in San Francisco.
No.
And you know what that means? That means duck and cover. The Blue Angels are coming.
Oh, that's right. The Blue Angels. Is that show tomorrow? Tomorrow and Sunday.
Oh,
they do 2 days.
When movie lovers hear the phrase Blue Angel, they lovingly recall the great Marlene Dietrich film of the same name. And when San Franciscans hear Blue Angel, they really hear Blue Angel. I mean, these guys are ear-splitting, sound barrier breaking. They're buzzing buildings in town as they rehearse for tomorrow's air show, and it's a massive nuisance. And I say that to you in case halfway through our segment, we hear the roar of jet engines.
I see. Okay, good. Well, we stand warned. Thank you.
Okay, so it's a familiar refrain. But it's a given that the movie industry is going to milk every brand and initially successful franchise with sequels, prequels, reboots, and remakes until there ain't no milk left, or it's sour. I mean, it's enough to make your head spin. And I don't know, puke, pea soup, green vomit?
Anyway, it sounds to me like you're warming up to an Exorcist review.
Speaking of spinning heads and green vomit,
yeah.
The Exorcist. Okay, more specifically, The Exorcist Believer, the latest entry in a decades-long run of horror films about demonic possession. The first one, directed by William Friedkin and based on the bestseller by William Peter Blatty, was a rarity, a horror movie that scored multiple Oscar nominations, and it still scared the bejesus out of people. I don't know where you were when this thing came out, but I remember the shrieks in the theater when I saw it, and that wasn't over what was even back then the ridiculous price of popcorn. The Exorcist focused on an innocent prepubescent girl, little Regan McNeil, living with her mother in a nice Washington, D.C. area townhouse. And when Regan is taken over by a demon named Pazuzu, a battle is waged by Regan's mother and a couple of tormented Catholic priests to free the kid from the evil presence. The inferior sequel, The Exorcist Heretic, checked in with the McNeils, but was mostly a scenery chew de force by the great Richard Burton, who looked like he was sweating whiskey as another tormented priest in conflict with Hellspawn. I remember Burton's character bellowing the immortal words, "Pazuzu, take me where I can find Kokumu." That's always stuck with me. Anyway.
Well, he was battling then several demons, both the evil demon and the evil demon of alcohol. So.
I love that their names all end with a ooh. Because that's what you're thinking as you're watching this thing. Ooh. Anyway, a few other movies bore the Exorcist brand, but the new one, which is the first in many years, actually has connections to the first, even if Pazuzu's name doesn't come up. And it's set in small town Georgia, not Georgetown, after an opening in Haiti that has, at best, a tenuous connection to the rest of Believer. There is a single parent played by Tony winner Leslie Odom Jr. of Hamilton fame, and there's a young daughter targeted by devilish forces after she and a friend get lost in the woods for 3 days. And by the way, the daughter is black, her best friend is white, and both girls get demonized, so to speak. And apparently Satan is an equal opportunity possessor, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, the filmmakers figured that if one possessed girl covered in welts and boils, contorting, floating, cursing was scary, two would be downright terrorific, and double the demons, double the fun. But the eerie, disgusting bits that had such shock value when they were first brought to the screen have lost some of their impact when reworked today. We've seen quite a few movies with exorcisms since the original Exorcist. Plus, in a post-Saw, post-Conjuring world, we're all kind of desensitized to unspeakable violence, gore, and supernatural shenanigans. David Gordon Green, who co-wrote and directed The Exorcist Believer, also made the recent Halloween sequel trilogy, which started off strong, then got weaker in the second and third installments. Green has the benefit of the magnetic Odom, as well as the always great Ann Dowd as, the spiritual lady next door. And yes, Ellen Burstyn reprising her role as Chris McNeil, Reagan's mother from the first movie.
Wow.
This is not a very memorable start, though, to what I hear is being planned as another trilogy by the director. Since it's scary season, I suppose it wouldn't be a total waste of time to see The Exorcist Believer in a theater, but there are better and more genuinely frightening films out there. Again, this is in theaters.
Wow. I grew up in Washington, D.C. We used to pass those Exorcist stairs all the time. And so the location where they shot that sort of was, infamous, And I loved the original. As you say, it had a realism to it. And I thought it was just brilliant. I mean, so this is, sadly, it doesn't quite, I love that they reach back to the original, but you're saying it just doesn't live up to.
Right, it doesn't. And Ellen Burstyn earns the feelings that you sense when she shows up on screen in this thing. But, it's kind of, here you go, folks. Look, it's Chris McNeil. I can only remember with fondness the absolute hysteria in the theater while I watched the original. Oh, my God, did you see that girl's head? I mean, it was like the craziness was off the charts. Anyway.
I will just say one last thing. I really was a fan of William Friedkin, and I went to see him speak on a special screening of The Exorcist in Q&A, and he told a story about a priest who had reached out to him because of a demonic possession that they thought they were witnessing in a remote part of Italy. And they asked about a bunch of specifics, certain things related to, because Friedkin had done some research in these demonic possession things. And the priest said, we don't think it's a true demonic possession because the little boy hasn't turned his head all the way around. And Friedkin said, that was something we literally made up. It's a movie thing. It has no basis in actual reality. And it was funny and of course, Friedkin laughed as he said, the film informed real life and the assessment of different situations as to whether or not they are true demonic possessions. Truly insane, the power of the movie.
That's not fake. That's real.
Anyway.
Well, sort of. Anyway, what do we got here? Oh, a Pedro Almodovar Western that's a half hour long. I mean, shorter than an episode of Deadwood or Bonanza. And Almodovar's Strange Way of Life, written and directed by the acclaimed Spanish author, is in theaters. It's not on television. That's right. Strange Way of Life is the latest Almodovar film, and it's a little mini Western. Of course, it also stars Ethan Hawke and Pedro Pascal, so there's star power to go along with any gunpowder that might get ignited. And the story is simple. Two former gunmen who worked together 25 years ago are reunited when Pascal Silva, now a rancher, rides into the town where his former buddy Jake, played by Hawke, is now the sheriff. Though they do seem to revel in reconnecting and enjoy one another's company that night, it turns out that the reunion was triggered by something less than congenial. Hawke and Pascal are fine actors, of course, and they do a good job in this brief study of a lost friendship that's going to be revisited due to circumstance and tested by opposing loyalties. But this is sort of Almodovar's, I don't know, Brokeback Pedro. And I didn't completely buy Hawk and Pascal that way. Still, Strange Way of Life is the product of a top-tier filmmaker, looks smashing, gallops right along, and is over in 31 minutes. What's not to dig, partner? You know,
what do you
it's
do?
in theaters.
It's in the theater, so it's paired with something else?
I assume so. It's part of like little double features, or
Okay.
you know, I don't know if it's a lagniappe, as they say in New Orleans, little something extra. Go see this movie, and guess what you're going to see as well. I don't get
see.
it.
Yeah. Okay.
Moving on, I relish the chance to see two rising actors opposite one another in a provocatively themed movie. So when I heard about Saoirse Ronan and Paul Mescal playing husband and wife in the sci-fi drama Foe, I was beyond intrigued. Both Ronan and Mescal are Oscar nominees who have made impeccable choices in their roles. And Foe, based on an Ian Reid bestseller, is about a couple, Hen and Junior, whose life together on desolate farmland in a dystopian future is shaken up when a man they've never seen before drops by unannounced and essentially conscripts them into a government program. So this compels them.
Yeah,
this compels them to personally confront issues surrounding that omnipresent topic, artificial intelligence, such as sentience and identity. And it also tests the strength of their relationship, including whether or not they share the same hopes and dreams. So this sounds promising. Am I right? But the result comes off as if, I don't know, Ingmar Bergman decided to make a science fiction movie in a drought-ravaged corner of America's heartland while on Zoloft. I mean, you get lots of slow, deliberate conversations with the admittedly terrific actors in close-up, interspersed with shots of the barren wasteland outside the farmhouse. The result was surprisingly leaden, with occasional sparks from the leads, illuminating a very fuzzy approach to the AI aspects of the story, which was directed by Garth Davis, who co-wrote the script with the book's author, Reed. Foe is in theaters. I was not impressed.
Wow, you sound like it's really missable. Leaden is a ding word. Yes, you're true. Tom is watching your ding words, I guess.
Yeah,
I missed a few.
By all means, another fabulous Mark Thompson time waster, the ding word.
Go ahead.
Moving on. Rebecca Miller, daughter of the esteemed playwright Arthur Miller and wife of the esteemed actor Daniel Day-Lewis, has made some impressive art house films, including Personal Velocity and Maggie's Plan. And now she's written and directed a lighthearted romantic dramedy titled She Came to Me, that's more oddball than screwball, but I'm damned if I didn't get caught up in it. Peter Dinklage is typically compelling as Stephen, a creatively blocked, high-maintenance composer of modern operas who's married to his therapist, Patricia, played by Anne Hathaway. They have a comfortable life in Brooklyn with her smart and upstanding teenage son, Trey, who is in love with sweet fellow student Teresa. The marriage of Stephen and Patricia, though, is on shaky ground, so it's no surprise when the composer, searching for inspiration, goes out for an afternoon walk with the family dog, ends up in a local dive bar for a little, day drinking, and hits it off with, the name kills me, Katrina, an attractive, down-to-earth female tugboat captain from New Orleans, hence Katrina. And
I get it, yeah.
She's played by Marissa Tomei. So Katrina wrestles with sex addiction and is attracted to Stephen. And although usually bottled up, he goes with the flow this time, and their unexpected block. You kind of just know that Katrina is going to somehow insert herself into Stephen's life. But what's unexpected is the struggle young Trey has when Teresa's uptight stepfather tries to undermine the young lovers. She Came to Me was a little silly at times, but I was amused by much of it, probably due to Dinklage, Hathaway, and Tomei, who seem to be having a ball and kind of elevate the material when it gets a bit wan. It's in theaters.
It's a comedy, you're telling me.
Ish.
Yeah, comedy-ish. Fun-ish. Okay.
All
right, moving on.
My favorite film of the week. I got to get to my favorite film.
Please.
From her supporting roles in The Americans and Ozark to her lead roles in Inventing Anna and the indie feature The Assistant, Julia Garner has been a revelation. I just love her. I love her work. And now she's teamed up with a fellow young actress, Jessica Henwick, in The Royal Hotel, which is a scorcher of a thriller about two American girls, Hannah, played by Garner, and Liv, played by Henwick, backpacking through Australia and backpacking into trouble. When they run out of cash, the two friends end up tending bar at the titular and ironically named Royal Hotel, which is a ramshackle dump in a rough outback mining town. Oh, nothing royal about the place, let me tell you. Their boss at the pub, where they're temporarily working and living, seems a bit sketchy, but it's the motley crew of locals that is generally worse. They're hard drinking, aggressive, and chauvinistic, and potentially dangerous. Admittedly, they are Australians, right? So, no surprise. Despite Liz's encouragement, Hannah was not crazy about taking on the gig, even though she kind of went along with the plan. The tension and the dread build in scene after scene, and it kind of feels like it's a matter of time before something awful is going to happen. And what's it going to be? And how bad is it going to be? And is Hannah needlessly worrying? So you got to watch The Royal Hotel. And what I consider an enhanced depiction of women in a patriarchal dilemma to find out. Garner and Henwick benefit from very taut direction by Kitty Green, who co-wrote the spring-loaded script, and so does the rest of the cast, including an almost unrecognizable Hugo Weaving as the girls' slovenly boss, and a bunch of memorable supporting actors. Some of them indigenous as the townfolk.
Yeah.
As it happens, Green is the Australian filmmaker who wrote and directed that complex and resonant performance by Garner in The Assistant a couple of years ago, and they score again with The Royal Hotel. Green and Garner obviously make a great team, and watching Garner here is thrilling and chilling. I was drained when I left the screening of The Royal Hotel, but I never checked out, if you get my drift.
I get it. Resonant is a ding word. Yeah, I'm impressed. So this is a thriller. It's in theaters.
It is indeed, and it's my favorite movie this week, and one of my favorites of the year so far, The Royal Hotel, written and directed by Kitty Green and starring specifically and particularly the great Julia Garner.
Anything on TV, Michael Snyder?
Yeah, if you go to Hulu, buddy, oh my God, Totally Killer is a film, and it's a fun, frothy, freaky comedic cocktail that mixes slasher horror, time travel science fiction, and John Hughes high school hijinks. And it gleefully references and uses The Breakfast Club, John Carpenter's Halloween, and especially Back to the Future, among other cultural touchstones. The meta aspects of Totally Killer may get a bit smug with the overt mentions of those movies. Like, see, we know what we're ripping off. It's cool. And you know what?
Overt
it is cool. This is not a prestige project trolling for awards. It's a good time genre thing that I liked much more than, The Nexorcist or whatever you want to call it. So the heroine is a cool modern kid, Jamie, played by Kiernan Shipka, who was Sabrina the Teenage Witch on TV prior to this. It's Halloween in her hometown, where 35 years ago, the Sweet 16 killer murdered 3 teenage girls. Jamie doesn't care about her mother's continued apprehension about the serial killer. She's off to have fun. But when the Sweet 16 killer finally turns up again, Jamie finds herself thrust through time to when the first murders happened, and armed with future knowledge, tries to stop the killings. In the process, she meets her mother, who was a high school mean girl back then, and she doesn't, they don't get along. It's really pretty funny, pretty entertaining.
Oh, that's great. That sounds great. And it sounds like it's fun enough that I could watch it, even though there's
you could. Directed by Nanachka Khan. I really enjoyed Totally Killer. And again, it's a throwaway, but if you're going to watch something, for the Halloween season right now, this weekend's choices, basically you've got a truly scary thriller in The Royal Hotel, and you've got a very funny kind of meta comedy in Totally Killer. So, The Exorcist comes in a distant third there.
Wow. Totally Killer on Hulu. The Exorcist, I was just trying to follow the visuals there. Okay, so Totally Killer on Hulu. There it is. He likes it as a throwaway, but good little indulgence. His pick of the week is A Royal Hotel. Juliette Garner in this thriller that's in the theater. Directed by Kitty Green. And Garner's brilliant. And apparently Michael feels this is one you really should see. The Royal Hotel. I'm sorry, the one I just mentioned, The Royal Hotel. The She Came to Me. That's the Peter Dinklage, Anne Hathaway film. He plays a composer. He meets Katrina, the female tugboat captain, played by Marissa Tomei. The two hook up. And he said it's kind of cute and funny and not bad.
No.
Foe is the Saoirse Ronan thing about AI, and there was a lot of potential here in terms of subject matter, but apparently this film realized none of it. It is slow, it is plotting, it is missable, according to our culture blasters. Strange Way of Life is the interestingly short half-hour offering from Pedro Almodovar. It's a Western with Ethan Hawke and Pedro Pascal. Michael liked it. He just can't understand what's going to go with it. For 30 minutes, it's going to be paired with something. So he said, you see it in the theater, but you'll probably get something else as a bonus because, again, it's only 30 minutes. And finally, The Exorcist. The sequel is called The Exorcist Believer. It harkens back to the first Exorcist, the one that changed cinema in many ways and changed horror, as Michael noted. It was an Academy Award-winning performance and film back in the original days. This brings back Ellen Burstyn from that original film, Michael says. But he also says, aside from seeing Ellen Burstyn again, not a lot great here, right, Michael?
It's true. There are a couple good scenes, but a couple good scenes does not necessarily mean an entire, movie worth sitting through, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, you've acquitted yourself so nicely here today, Michael. We miss you in the studio, but look forward to, when are you coming into the studio again?
Probably a week or two, probably a couple weeks, certainly by mid-October. And I will do my very best to be a part of the anniversary celebration next Thursday.
I love that. And Michael, quickly a word about the Niners and Cowboys.
I am filled with dread, more dread than I experienced during The Exorcist Believer, I promise you. They have a great defense. The Cowboys, and they are going to be coming at our O-line like snarling, angry dogs, like wolves going after our golden boy, Brock Purdy. I can only hope that the Niners are up to the task. I know that their offense is crackling right now, and if they can keep Purdy protected, and he does what he does so well, which is process what he sees and make good decisions, I think we'll be okay. But
wow, there
you never know.
A complete breakdown and summary from the great culture blaster, Michael Snyder. Find him across social media as the Culture Blaster. He comes and goes here on a rainbow. Bye, Michael.
Happy weekend, everybody.
Yeah. Happy weekend to you, buddy.